Hello, everybody, and welcome to another special home edition of Truth Wanted. I'm your host, ObjectivelyDan, once again coming to you live from my apartment. So in case you're watching this from the future and you're wondering what the heck is going on, we're currently going through the COVID-19 crisis, and we are doing all of our streams from the atheist community of Austin from the safety and comfort of our homes. So joining me today on this awesome episode of Truth Wanted is my very first Satanist guest. That's right, folks. It's not another atheist. It is a Satanist specifically. In fact, an official Satanist, the Reverend Raul Antony. Raul, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. And so this idea kind of came up with me and Vern. We're kind of talking about potential guests, and Vern was talking about the Church of Satan, and we were talking about the Satanic Temple versus the Church of Satan, and we were kind of confused because we thought we had knew some stuff, and you know, Vern and I mean, we're part of the atheist community of Austin. We know more Satanists than most people do for sure, and yet we still kind of has some confusions with these terms and stuff. And we thought what a great idea would be to have somebody come on who's a part of one of those organizations to kind of talk about Satanism itself and kind of answer people's questions and stuff. So that's why we asked you, Raul, to come on. And yeah, what is Satanism and why is there kind of these different ideas about it?
Well, Satanism was a philosophy defined by Anton LaVey in the Satanic Bible. And with the founding of the Church of Satan, he gathered different philosophies from Nietzsche, Ayn Rand, Mark Twain, all these secular sources. And he created a philosophy that is based on self-worship, based on the idea of your pride, your ego, represented by Satan. The idea is throughout all the world religions, the devil is always representing materialism, rejection of spirituality. So Anton LaVey recognized the need for a religion that accepts the material world. And he also studied the occult and noticed that there wasn't a actual formalized definition of a Satanism. Satanism was something that you accuse somebody of being or following. Various Christian groups accuse each other of being Satanists and such, or pagans and such. So LaVey decided to formulate and establish Satanism in the context of an atheistic outlook.
In your description of Satanism there, you have said nothing specific in particular about the figure of Satan itself, which I think when a lot of people in the mainstream kind of think of Satanism, they think of a bunch of people in hoods kind of in a circle, either sacrificing a goat or something and actually doing something towards a figure called Satan. But really this idea of Satanism that you're talking about is kind of atheistic in nature. There really isn't any deities in it, right?
Right. So Satanism is just a representation. It's a symbol. We acknowledge the importance of symbols, the importance of archetypes, the importance of mythologies. So we picked the symbol that best represents our carnal natures. So the idea is that religion, all religions, all gods are man-made. So that's like the fundamental principle. So all of this are fictions, and they represent the fears and desires of the people who created those religions. So when you worship a god, you're actually by proxy worshiping the people who created that god, that religion. So we take Satan as a representation of ourselves. So we worship ourselves through this symbol of Satan. So Satanism is a very individualistic religion. So my application of Satanism is going to vary from somebody else, right? There's some foundations, and we can talk about that, the basic fundamentals of Satanism. But every Satanist is going to apply it a little bit differently. It's going to be based on his or her interests, their aesthetics, their priorities. A lot of Satanism is based on, well, actually, I would say the core of Satanism is the self, is establishing what is important to you and prioritizing those things. So as soon as your own needs and wants or your desires are satisfied, then you can go off and be a more productive individual and help those that you care to help.
So kind of by serving yourself, you're serving others.
Sure. If that's what you choose to do, if that's what's if that's an option or interest for you. So like I said, Satanism was defined in 1966 with the foundation of the Church of Satan, and then formalized in the Satanic Bible in 1969, I believe. And so it's been around for over 50 years. And it's been very consistent. It's actually radically consistent for a religion. A lot of religions tend to shift and change and pivot on certain things, but Satanism has been very consistent. It's from the beginning been an atheistic philosophy. It says right there in the Satanic Bible, all gods are man-made. So we go from that basis and ask the question: when all religion is man-made, when all gods are man-made, what role does religion play? So we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We just reapply religion in a way that fits us.
And that was kind of my next question, actually. So, like, why call it a religion? If, because in the atheist community, most of us have some comments about religion in general. I mean, obviously there's specifics to whichever one you're talking about, but religion often has kind of a negative connotation with a lot of atheists in particular. So why choose to define Satanism as a religion rather than maybe a life stance or a philosophy? What's the difference there?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, because we do value certain things like ritual, like having shared symbolism amongst those who resonate with that darker aesthetic, the romantic aesthetic. I don't believe that Satanism is for everybody. Actually, I believe it's for a rare few people in this world. We don't proselytize, we don't promote it, we don't try to spread it. We're not trying to, boost our numbers and get people to join the Church of Satan or anything like that. No, we put our work out there either through our arts or through literature and things like that, and it's like a beacon, it's like a lighthouse, and it'll attract certain people who have that in them already. So and a part of that is having somewhat of a need for a religion, for a kind of meta culture, meta ethnicity. And I think that's what would differ us from straight atheists. I mean, we are atheistic in the sense that we do reject any external gods, but we still have I would say like a reluctant desire for a religion or some kind of pageantry.
So I just want to remind folks that this is a call-in show. We want you guys to definitely call in. We have a few calls in the queue, but we could definitely use some more. So if you want to ask myself or Raul some questions about Satanism, or if you had another topic you want to talk about, this is a show where we explore basically what people believe and why. So please feel free to call. And also remember, we're using a different number, which you can see right there at the corner of the screen if you're watching live, than we typically do. So don't call our old number, the one that's on my Twitter banner and everything else. Please call that updated number for now so you can talk to us. And we'll get to you in a second. You'll be put in the queue. For now, again, I'm just going to be talking to Reverend Raul Antony. And you have that title of Reverend, which is interesting because Reverend is kind of traditionally, of course, a Christian kind of label. And Satanism is about as far as you can get from Christianity. So what's the deal with that?
I mean, it's the title Reverend is a title given to members of the organization of the Church of Satan who have applied Satanism in the real world successfully, and have proven to be able to talk to the philosophy and explain it to other people. So it's not a job, it's not a thing that I go out and do. When you're a priest or a reverend or a priestess, your only job is just to be the best you that you can be. And so you're like a living example of Satanism. So it's just a recognition of real world accomplishments, because that's what Satanism is all about. It's recognizing that this is the one and only life that we have, and that there's no point sacrificing for an afterlife, and there's no enlightenment to be had in some other, another life or in another dimension or anything like that. This is the only life we have. So in keeping with that, being successful in life in your own subjective way is Satanism. That is an application of Satanism. So in recognition of some of the things I've done in the art world and music and writing, I was given the priesthood title, the priest title, Reverend.
So it's almost because I know people who wouldn't call themselves atheists, but by my definition of that word being that they lack a belief in God or any gods, like they would be atheists. Now, even though they don't, call them that themselves, it's almost with Satanism, it's kind of the same thing. You can kind of call something satanic by your understanding of the word, even though they may not self-identify with that label. Is that kind of right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually play with that a lot. Actually, I see things in a satanic lens. I'll watch movies and I'll see satanic themes and things like that. Even though those things may not be, satanic explicitly, they may be implicitly, or even individuals. We like to use the term de facto Satanists. There are certain individuals throughout history who have acted in a satanic manner even before Satanism was actually defined, or would have even been thought of as being satanic. But in the context of the definition as it exists now, they would have been Satanists. I think about that every now and then. I encounter a person. I have a lot of friends who don't consider themselves Satanists. They may even be religious in some other way, but they act as Satanists or act in satanic ways, and we kind of have that common ground.
So what do you think the benefit is then of joining an organization like the Church of Satan, as opposed to just kind of being satanic on your own? Like, for the atheist community of Austin, for example, we produce shows, we kind of talk about religion, we have kind of these expression of ideas, but we're not worshiping, we don't have the same kind of pageantry as you guys. Is that kind of maybe a lot of the appeal, is kind of the ritual, kind of the community? Or
well, we shy away from the term community because Satanism is a very kind of radical, individualistic kind of philosophy. We don't congregate. We don't have gatherings. We have occasional gatherings. We had it for our 50th anniversary on June 6th, 2006, 666. We had a satanic mass at the Center for Inquiry in Los Angeles, and kind of just playing up the whole 666, the fear of 666 and things like that. So it was kind of tongue in cheek, but it was also a serious kind of expression of Satanism. So those kind of mass gatherings are pretty rare, but we like to think of the Church of Satan as an organization of non-joiners. If you feel the need to join an organization, probably not. This is probably not for you, because that's not going to fill that role for you.
So what is the role of the Church of Satan then?
It's a good question. The role of the Church of Satan is to uphold the philosophy, excuse me, of Anton LaVey. There's a lot of archival work that has to be done. There's a lot of coordination also, like doing this kind of interview. You reach out, we kind of screen people, we kind of see what's the best fit for certain media appearances and things like that. We do a lot of things in the back end too that people don't see. Our representatives can appear in court as court witnesses in crimes that are involving kind of Satanism, or people are accused of Satanism, things like that. There's a lot of things that need to be done in order to maintain the legacy of Anton LaVey of the definition of Satanism, because there is this constant like need for people to try to redefine Satanism too, because it's a great thing to label somebody who you don't like, so it becomes easily a derogatory term. So it does take a fair amount of diligence to keep that definition in place and represent it appropriately and accurately in the media. And also, it's a way of coordinating with other people. If you are involved in a project and you want to work with other Satanists, being in the Church of Satan can serve that role too. It's not to say that you're going to get along with every other member. In fact, you're more likely not to get along with other members because we're so different than each other. But you will likely find somebody that you can coordinate with and have a shared interest, shared aesthetics, and you can work on your projects together. It's kind of a clearinghouse in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're talking about changing the definition of satanic, because I've been following the Church of Satan's Twitter account even before I met you, because they get shown up sometimes in other media sources just because it's really funny sometimes. I guess you guys just control F on Twitter whenever somebody says Satan, and then you guys just swoop in and be like, you suck, or no, this is awesome. Like it's just kind of like, I don't know, you guys aren't afraid to roast people on Twitter, which is really funny.
I mean, we have a lot of followers, so a lot of people send in material, and we have members who are also active on social media, and they'll send in material, to the administrators, and they'll kind of play with it. And it's not a serious thing. It's like you want to have fun with it. Anton LaVey was kind of a showman himself, and he had a kind of tongue-in-cheek way of going about media. And so there's some people who get upset about it. They're like, oh, Church of Satan, they're just a Twitter page, or they're just, they're not a serious organization. It's like, yeah, we are, but we also have a sense of humor. This is a very short life we have, and you can't stay mad at everything, and sometimes it's worth roasting people online.
Yeah,
it's funny.
I think it's funny too, and I like what you guys are doing, especially with just changing people's perceptions of what they previously thought. Like I told a very good Christian friend of mine who's known me for years, who knows that I do this show, who knows that I talk to all kinds of people, who's never really said anything about what I do. I told him this week, yeah, I'm gonna have someone from the Church of Satan on. And he got real quiet, and he was like, dude, are you sure about that? And I was like, I've talked to like flat earthers and just all kinds of people from all over the place. And like, now it's the Satanists that got you worried. Like, nah, yeah, it's cool. Like they're chiller than I'm more scared of Christians than I am of Satanists at this point in general. Not saying that, all Christians are like that, but it's just like, I know what you guys are doing. I know what you're up to. And it's just like you said, it's kind of tongue in cheek for the most part. You're kind of just doing your own thing. What's there not to like? So,
yeah, I mean, part of it is tongue in cheek in some ways, but there's a serious aspect to it too. And there are things that you should fear from Satanists. Maybe not the things that people immediately think of, but Satanism is not a group hug, everyone get along to get along kind of philosophy. We do have a very realistic, it can be sometimes harsh way of looking at the world, and we can talk to that in a bit.
Ooh, okay, yeah, actually, that is, because now you're saying I should be scared, and I wasn't scared before, but now I'm a little threatened. What do you mean? Like, can you expand on that a little bit? Like, what part of the philosophy should I be scared of?
Well, I don't know about being scared of, but it can be threatening to some people who have delicate sensibilities. I mean, we view the world as indifferent to mankind. The universe is indifferent to mankind. We're not a special animal. We are an evolved animal. That's why I would see Satanism as different from, say, something like secular humanism. We don't see humans as being particularly special. In fact, I think most animals are more special than most humans. So we have a very misanthropic way of looking at the world. We have a very elitist way of looking at the world. We don't believe in egalitarianism. We believe that as individualists, we think each person has their own uh, they should be measured by their own ability, right? By their productivity, by the way that they can carry themselves in the world. We don't believe that all men, women are created equal. We don't believe in that kind of egalitarian outlook, this kind of blank slate worldview. We believe that you're born with abilities and disabilities, and you should take advantage of your abilities and mitigate your disabilities. Uh, it makes for a very it could be a very harsh way of looking at things, but we think it's a very realistic way of looking at things. Um, because as individuals, we all have our advantages and disadvantages, right? So we have to be honest about that. At the same time, we recognize that a lot of people can't deal with that. So, or they like to think of themselves as individuals, but not really. They buy prepackaged individualism from the consumer world, right? From advertisements and TV and mass media. We're I would say, very pessimistic about the herd, the masses. Even without Christianity, without religion, people will flock to some other kind of religious mindset, be it politics, entertainment, sports, or whatever it is, some way of flocking together that mankind has evolved to be a herd animal, and Satanists are turned off by that herd. So we are outsiders to that. So we will, not to say that we won't have fun in life and we'll enjoy we'll interject and mingle with the herd from time to time when that suits us, when we would be entertained by that, or we have something that we can gain from it. But we do always look at the world as, as aliens. We like to say we're kind of this alien meta ethnicity, this meta culture that's looking in from the outside.
Huh. Well, I have one more question for you, and then I want to go ahead and get to some calls here. You were talking about this idea that Satanists don't really believe that all people are created equal, and you're kind of telling me this idea that individualism is kind of what's most important. It's being able to focus on yourself, not being able to maybe rely on other people, and just dealing with the harshness of the world, kind of as an individual, not relying on the group. Maybe that's a fair kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's taken to an extreme. I wouldn't say that it's exclusively. I mean, I wouldn't say that no man is an island, right? So I wouldn't say that everybody should just be an automatized individual, but that is a priority. Our individual selves are a priority, and we can then expand upon that, because we'll think about, say, the community, our neighborhoods, right? If we have to contribute to that in some way, because we will ultimately benefit from that in some way, right?
Okay.
So there's ways of we would we have to be realistic about that. We have to have that kind of perspective, that outside perspective. We cannot be solipsistic. We cannot see ourselves as just the only things that exist in this world. There are other people, and we're not. We have empathy for those that share certain things with us, those that we care for, our family, our friends, our loved ones, and we'll have these networks of people. But so we're not like completely isolated selves,
Sure.
right? But and at the same time, I would not recommend that for other people. I don't think most people have that ability. I think most people want to be in a group. Most people want to congregate with other people, and we acknowledge that. So that's why we are separate from that.
Well, okay, so that was my clarification. Now I want to get to my question, which was like, so I would use the label for myself as a secular humanist. And so I have an idea of wanting to help other people in ways that I think is best, even if it doesn't directly benefit myself. So like I am a strong advocate for LGBT individuals. I try to associate in that community, even though I'm like a straight white guy. And it almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it almost sounds like if I adopted a Satanist philosophy, that I wouldn't even be interested in something like that, because I may not get any personal benefit, since I'm not an individual that would like identify myself in that community. Am I making sense here? Like,
yeah, I mean, I get that. That's one way of looking at it. I mean, again, it depends on your be of that demographic. So it's just a matter of determining what those priorities are for you. I mean, you might have friends and loved ones who would benefit from that. So being active in that world might benefit you because it benefits them, and that makes you happy. So we don't have any kind of directive for anything like that. It's up to you as an individual to decide if that's an issue for you to pursue, amongst other issues.
Okay, that's a good answer. Because I would think that actually in trying to help that kind of community, I am benefiting myself in some way, because my belief is that by helping them, I am helping myself, and that applies to helping people in general. Really, I just use the LGBT community as an example because that's the first thing that came to my mind. But like, communities other than myself, right? That I'm not necessarily a part of in that way, and trying to do that. So I can see how you can rationalize it in maybe a satanic way. It's fun saying things in a satanic way. I don't get to say that too often now, so I'm getting used to using that. Well, great. So we have a couple calls here on the line, so I want to get started with some calls.